Hey everyone, looky what I have. This is a tray full of Celosia. Stay tuned and we'll talk about it. Celosia is a warm season tender annual. They really like it hot and they like it fairly dry. They don't like wet feed at all. Now I have several different varieties of Celosia that I'm growing here, and the varieties that I'm growing are different than what you would buy in your garden centers for Celosia bedding plants and things like that. These are going to get 24 inches in tall or 24 inches, 36 inches in height. So they make good cut flowers. Not only do they make good cut flowers, they make great dried flowers. If you are not on the dried flower bandwagon yet, and maybe you didn't grow up in an era when dried flowers were really popular and then they went way out of popularity and now they've come back into popularity. So if you don't know anything about that, then just give drying flowers a try. It's one of the easiest things and one of the most rewarding things you can do is to take flowers from your own garden area and hang them upside down or whichever method you choose, and then dry them and have them as everlastings. It's very rewarding, very fun. There's basically, or there are, 3 types of Celosia. There's your Plume Type Celosia, there's your Wheat Type Celosia, and there's your Crested Type Celosia, or you may know it as Cockscomb. Now in this tray that I started them, let me look on the tag here. You know when you want to find something, you never can find it? Okay, I started them on March 17th. So Celosia will bloom anywhere from 90 to 120 days. And depending on, we're going to talk about pinching in just a moment, but depending on whether or not you pinch, they may bloom a little sooner. But we're going to talk about the advantages of pinching in just a minute. All of the varieties I have here growing in this tray are either the Crested, the Cockscomb, or the Plume type. The Wheat type of Celosia produces like tons of seeds, and it will throw off tons of seeds in your garden. You don't need to plant that anymore. It's just going to come up voluntarily in my garden. So I can choose to take some of it out, or I can choose to leave it all. And anyway, it'll do its thing, and it's great for drying as well. But it throws off a ton of seeds. Varieties that I'm growing of the Celosias this year, or you might say Celosia. I've also heard it said Celosia, but I've always said Celosia. So I'm growing Celosia Cockscomb Rose, so that is a Cockscomb variety, and then the Cockscomb Corona, and the Cockscomb Cramers mix, and then another specialty Cockscomb I'm growing would be the Cockscomb Spring Green. There's only 15 seeds in the seed packet, so you know when you see a seed packet that only has 15 seeds, you know there's something special about that flower. So I'm growing some of those, and then some of the Plume type. I'm growing Sylphid, Sunday Gold, these are all Plume, Texas Plumes, and Pampas Plune. I was looking to see behind me if any of my leftover dried flowers, if I had any of the Celosias here. Oh, I have a lot of the Wheat type here, the Flamingo one, and another Wheat type variety. Then I see some Cockscomb here that I dried. And what else? I don't see any of the Plume. I must have used those for something else. This is amaranth here. It looks like the Plume, but it's actually amaranth. So I'm not seeing any of the Plume back here on the dried flower wall, but they make great dried flowers too. And really, I love using Celosia in fresh arrangements, but I really love drying Celosia. So that's kind of one of the main things I grow them for. You can see how tall these have gotten under my grow lights, and I'm having to adjust my grow lights. I have LED grow lights, and you want to keep your LED grow lights about 8 inches from your plants, and I'm having a hard time doing that because these are wanting to grow. One of the things I definitely wanted to talk with you about today concerning Celosias is whether or not to pinch. So to pinch or not to pinch, and I've heard both ways. All of the seed packets I have here, except for the Cockscomb Spring Green, says to pinch the plant when it is 10 inches tall to make a more robust plant and to make cause it to branch out a little bit more. The benefit of pinching would cause more blooms later on. And you're going to get, if you don't pinch, you're going to get your blooms earlier, obviously, But if you do pinch, you're going to get more blooms, but you're going to get them a little bit later. Does that make sense? So when they get to be about 10 inches tall, and this would be after I plant them out and their roots are getting established in their new homes and they're happy and they don't have any transplant shock, and obviously I will harden these off so that they will not have transplant shock. But I'm going to give them a while before I pinch them, just to let them get settled in the raised beds that I'm growing them in. And definitely I will not pinch the spring green cockscomb. I believe that is a one and done. I'm not super positive about that, but I think it's a one and done, and I mostly am growing this one for dried flowers. I feel like I needed to insert a little part in this video. It's been about a week since I actually filmed the initial video, and you can see that they have grown quite a bit taller. I was checking on them on their daily check, and all of a sudden I started noticing some buds on Celosia, and I'm like, what? What are you guys doing? You're not following the rules here. And even some of the spring green here that I'm not going to pinch, you can see has already started to bud out. So they're definitely not following the rule. I went ahead and pinched on the ones that I was planning on pinching. I went ahead and pinched those buds. I just wasn't ready for them to start blooming yet. And I've moved these out to my greenhouse. I've taken them out from under the grow lights. I'm keeping the greenhouse about 50 degrees Fahrenheit at night, so that's keeping them happy. But another thing I did was just stop the fertilizer. I used the Neptune's Harvest fish and seaweed fertilizer on all of my seedlings. So I've stopped the fertilizer, hoping to slow down the growth a little bit until I can get these planted out. But I definitely had to pinch before they were 10 inches tall and before I actually got them settled in their raised beds. So if your plants start overachieving like mine did, then don't worry about it. Don't panic. Just go ahead and pinch the ones that you were planning on pinching, and then, they'll be totally fine. They're fine. They're very resilient. So just wanted to insert this little part here in the video. You know what I really love? When a seed packet gives all this information. This says a warm season tender annual that prefers full sun. We know that about Celosia. Plant outdoors after danger of frost has passed and soil has warmed. Start seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before planting, or cast directly in the garden. Cast your seeds directly in the garden. When a seed packet gives you the first information to start your seeds indoors, that means that's what your seedlings and your seeds and your plant will be happiest with, starting indoors. If it says first off direct sow, then that's what your plant is happiest with. Does that make sense? I hope so, because that's a huge help to me. When I see that start seeds indoors, however many weeks ahead of time before you want to plant them out in your garden, that just says to me, okay, this prefers to be sowed indoors and grown on under grow lights. So it's a huge help. I love it when Seed Packet gives me this information. So it also tells you, this company tells you how to harvest. It says harvest the flowers. When mature for fresh bouquets, make the cut at the base of the stem. So these are from the Gardener's Workshop, and I get the bulk of my seeds from them. If you live in the United States, then they do only ship in the United States. So I do plan to pinch all of mine, and I might leave 1 or 2 that I don't pinch so I can get some early blooms, but for the most part, I'm going to go ahead and pinch everything. I just want to keep the blooms coming, whether I'm going to use them in fresh arrangements or dried, whichever. I just want to keep the blooms coming. I want the plants to be very robust and full. And I don't think I said earlier when I was talking about the 3 types of Celosia, there's many varieties within the 3 types. So you're not limited with your Celosias at all. I mean, there's just a huge array of colors, and oh, just love them so much. And Celosias are easy to grow. It's a plant that grows very quickly. Pollinators love them. I've seen butterflies and different pollinators on my Celosias. So they're a super fun plant to grow. They're one that if I was choosing something new to grow that I had never grown before, I would definitely start some Celosia. And your Celosia plants are going to take you all the way through to frost as well. So anyway, friends, I thank you so much for watching. I thank you for being here today. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you, and we're hoping to just garden together. We're looking forward to gardening together with you this season. And until next time, happy gardening. Bye-bye.